He was mocked, until the alien vampire woman appeared behind him. The outcast's vigil, the humming of environmental systems was Nolan Reed's only companion as he adjusted the nutrient flow to his latest specimen, a luminescent fern from Proxima b that seemed to respond to emotional stimuli. His slender fingers worked with practiced precision, his brow furrowed in concentration beneath disheveled brown hair. "Talking to your plants again, Reed?" The mocking voice of Dr. Vance Harlow echoed through the botanical lab. "Maybe they're the only ones who don't think your theories are complete garbage." Nolan didn't look up. "Plants are better company than most people I've met, Harlow." Vance chuckled, leaning against the doorframe with 2 security officers flanking him, all wearing the same smug expression. "Director Ellis is reviewing your funding request tomorrow. I'd start packing if I were you." After they left, Nolan sighed and whispered to his plants, "At least you appreciate me." He continued his work late into the night cycle, long after the other researchers had retired to their quarters. The Helios 7 station grew quiet except for the occasional ping of distant machinery. At precisely 02:17 hours, the lights flickered. Then they died completely. "Perfect," Nolan muttered, reaching for his emergency light. Before he could activate it, he noticed something odd, a faint purple glow emanating from his prized specimen. The fern was luminescing more brightly than he'd ever seen, its fronds gently swaying despite the lack of air current. "That's impossible," he whispered, reaching toward it. "The energy signature is completely off the charts." The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. Nolan's breath fogged in front of him, and he felt a peculiar sensation, like being watched. Not with malice, but with intense curiosity. He turned slowly, scanning the darkness. "Hello?" he called out, his voice barely audible. "Is someone there?" The shadows in the far corner of the lab seemed to deepen, to pool like liquid darkness. Nolan's scientific mind raced through explanations. Equipment malfunction, oxygen deprivation, hallucination from overwork. None explained the silhouette gradually taking form. His monitoring equipment began registering unprecedented energy readings. The fern's glow intensified, bathing the lab in ethereal purple light. In that illumination, Nolan caught a glimpse of silvery eyes observing him from the darkness. "I know you're there," he said, surprising himself with his calmness. "I've suspected something was watching me for weeks." The shadow shifted, and Nolan felt a strange resonance in his chest, like the vibration of a tuning fork matching his heartbeat. His fear gradually melted into fascination. Before he could say more, the lab door hissed open. Emergency lights flickered on as Vance and his cronies entered, carrying equipment that wasn't standard issue. Perfect timing for sabotage, Nolan thought. But as Vance stepped forward, the shadow behind Nolan began to move with purpose, and Nolan Reed realized his life was about to change forever. "The violet shadows, what the—" Vance froze mid-step, his eyes widening as the darkness behind Nolan began to coalesce into a humanoid form. The shadow solidified into a woman-like figure, with skin the color of twilight, deep purple with subtle, iridescent patterns that shifted like oil on water. Her eyes were liquid silver, pupilless yet somehow expressive, framed by delicate features that seemed both alien and hauntingly beautiful. Midnight hair with violet undertones floated around her as if suspended in water. "You are not welcome here," she said, her voice resonating with harmonic overtones that made the lab equipment vibrate. She stepped protectively beside Nolan, her movements fluid and graceful. Vance stumbled backward. "What is that thing?" He fumbled for his communicator. "Security. We have an intruder in Botanical Lab 7. The being, for Nolan couldn't think of her as simply a woman, raised her hand. The shadows around her fingers elongated, reaching across the room and plucking the communicator from Vance's grasp, before dissolving it into particles of darkness. "Your intentions carry negative energy," she said. "I can taste your jealousy, your desire to destroy what you don't understand." She stepped forward, and the temperature dropped further. "Leave now." The security officers didn't need to be told twice. They bolted, leaving Vance alone. He looked from the being to Nolan, his face contorted with fear and rage. "This isn't over, Reed," he spat before fleeing. When they were alone, the being turned to Nolan. Her expression softened, the silver of her eyes warming to quicksilver. "You are not afraid," she observed, her head tilting with curiosity. Nolan swallowed. "I probably should be, but no, I'm not." He gestured to his equipment. Your energy signature. It's unlike anything I've ever recorded. Are you from the shadow dimension theoretical physicists have been postulating? A smile curved her purple lips. Your scientists have glimpsed the edges of my realm. I am Lyra Vex. She approached his luminescent fern, touching it gently. The plant seemed to lean toward her. Your work with life energies drew me here. You understand connection in ways your kind rarely does. Why reveal yourself now? Nolan asked. Because your enemies grow bolder. And because... She hesitated, her form briefly flickering. I grow weaker in your dimension without sustainable energy. Nolan understood. You need to feed. Not as you imagine. She reached out, hovering her hand near his chest without touching him. My kind can draw life energy painlessly, through emotional resonance rather than physical harm, if permitted. The implications were both terrifying and exhilarating. Nolan felt drawn to her in ways he couldn't explain. A connection beyond physical attraction, something primal and cosmic. I should report this, he said, though his heart wasn't in it. It's protocol. Lyra's expression held a hint of sadness. Then our meeting ends here. But know that others of my kind have found this station. Some are not as evolved in their feeding methods. Nolan made his decision. Stay, at least until I understand what's happening. He extended his hand. I'm Nolan Reed. Lyra's fingers interlaced with his. Where they touched, Nolan felt a pleasant warmth spiraling up his arm and into his chest. I know, she said. I've known you for some time, Nolan Reed. Your heart speaks across dimensions. Forbidden connection. Over the following weeks, Nolan's life transformed. By day, he continued his research, deflecting questions about the power surge incident. By night, Lyra would materialize from the shadows, and they would talk for hours. She explained her dimension, a realm of energy rather than matter, where beings like her existed in states humans couldn't comprehend. She demonstrated her abilities, manipulating shadows, perceiving emotions as colors, and traveling through what she called the seams between worlds. My people feed on emotional energy, she told him one night as they sat surrounded by his glowing plants. Most take it forcefully, causing what your legends call nightmares. I evolved differently. I prefer connection. Nolan found himself sharing more than he ever had with another being. His childhood struggles, his passion for understanding life's interconnectedness, his loneliness among humans who saw him as strange. You're not strange, Lyra said, her silver eyes reflecting the bioluminescent light. You're attuned to frequencies others ignore. Their relationship deepened. The first time Lyra fed, it was nothing like Nolan expected. She placed her hands on either side of his face, her forehead touching his. The sensation was intoxicating. Like every cell in his body was awake and singing. Rather than draining him, he felt energized, connected to something vast and beautiful. It's symbiotic, she explained afterward, her skin glowing more vibrantly. I take excess emotional energy, and the void created allows you to experience deeper feelings. Their connection became physical too. Tentative touches evolving into embraces. Kissing Lyra was like tasting starlight, a rush of sensation that transcended the merely physical. When they made love, shadows and light danced around them, reality itself seeming to bend at the edges of his perception. But their sanctuary couldn't last. Security monitors began picking up energy anomalies. Director Ellis assigned additional guards to the botanical section. Worst of all, equipment and personnel were being found drained of energy, left in states of near catatonia. It's not me, Lyra insisted when Nolan confronted her. Others have followed. They sense my contentment, my connection to you. They hunger for similar fulfillment, but know only to take, not to share. One evening, as they lay intertwined on the small cot in Nolan's private lab, emergency alarms blared throughout the station. Life support systems failing in sectors 5 through 9, announced the automated voice. Unknown energy drain detected. Lyra sat up abruptly, her silver eyes wide. They're feeding indiscriminately now. This is my fault. Nolan grabbed her hand. We need to stop them. We can't, not alone. Her form wavered momentarily. And if they discover you harbor me, they'll destroy you. The lab door slid open. Commander Ellis stood there with a full security team, their weapons trained on Lyra. Step away from it, Reed, Ellis ordered. That thing is responsible for 3 crew members in medical bay. She's not, Nolan began. We have the footage. It's some kind of energy vampire. Ellis's face hardened. And you've been helping it. Lyra's form began to darken, shadows swirling around her. I won't let you harm him, she said, her voice resonating with power. Nolan stood between them, facing an impossible choice between worlds. Retry you be, worlds collide. Stand down, all of you, Nolan shouted, surprising even himself with his authority. You don't understand what's happening. Commander Ellis kept her weapon trained on Lyra. Explain quickly. Read, 3 crew members are barely alive, and our systems are failing. There are others like her, Nolan said, gesturing toward Lyra, who remained poised for defense. But they're different, predatory. Lyra's been trying to protect us. Convenient story, Ellis replied skeptically. Dr. Harlow informed us about your relationship with this creature. Lyra stepped forward, her silvery eyes intense. Your station has been breached by shadow entities who feed destructively. I can help you stop them, but not if you continue pointing those weapons at us. A violent tremor shook the station. The lights flickered ominously. Life support failing in Central Hub, the automated system announced. Critical systems compromised. Ellis lowered her weapon slightly. You have 2 minutes to convince me. Lyra's form solidified as she approached the commander. My kind exists in a parallel dimension. We feed on energy, emotional, electrical, biological. Most take forcefully. But some of us have evolved to form symbiotic relationships. The destructive ones followed me here. Why should I believe you? Before Lyra could answer, the darkness in the corridor behind Ellis seemed to thicken. The security team's lights dimmed inexplicably. Because they're here, Lyra whispered. 3 shadow figures materialized, humanoid but grotesquely elongated, with glowing crimson eyes and wisps of darkness trailing from their forms. The temperature plummeted. Delicious life energy, one hissed, its voice like static electricity. So many vessels. The security team opened fire, but their energy weapons passed harmlessly through the entities. One of the shadows lunged forward, passing through a guard who collapsed instantly, his face contorted in terror. Your weapons are useless, Lyra shouted, pushing Nolan behind her. They exist partially in another dimension. The shadow creatures advanced. Ellis backed away, her composure finally cracking. What do we do? Lyra turned to Nolan, her expression pained. I need more energy to fight them. More than you alone can provide. Nolan understood immediately. The botanical lab, my specimens generate bioenergy. I need volunteers too, Lyra added. Willing donors of emotional energy. Ellis hesitated only briefly. Whatever it takes to save my station. She tapped her communicator. All available personnel to Botanical Lab 7. Emergency Protocol Omega. They retreated strategically toward Nolan's lab, the shadow entities pursuing like liquid darkness flowing through the station's corridors. 2 more guards fell before they reached the sealed laboratory. Inside, Nolan's luminescent plants provided meager protection, their purple glow creating a boundary the shadows seemed reluctant to cross. Your plants, Lyra observed with growing excitement. They're natural conduits between our dimensions. As station personnel arrived, Lyra explained the situation. To Nolan's surprise, even Vance volunteered. I still think you're crazy, Reed, he muttered, but I'd rather help you than be eaten by those things. Lyra instructed the volunteers to form a circle around the brightest specimens. She stood in the center, her form beginning to shimmer with increasing power. Focus on a powerful memory, she instructed. Joy, love, even productive fear. Let it fill you completely. As they complied, tendrils of colored light, visible manifestations of emotional energy, flowed from the humans toward Lyra. Rather than consuming it, she channeled it, her body transforming into a nexus of radiant power. Now, she whispered to Nolan, taking his hand, your plants are the anchor. Together they faced the shadows that had begun seeping under the laboratory door. Beyond the stars. The shadow entities recoiled as Lyra stepped forward, now radiating intense light with purple undertones. The emotional energy freely given by the station's crew had transformed her into something magnificent, a being of luminous power. You do not belong here, she told her dark kin. This realm is not yours to feed upon. The lead entity hissed, its form rippling with malice. We are hunger. We go where there is life to consume. Then find a realm where life offers itself willingly, Lyra countered, raising her hands. Bands of light extended from her fingers, encircling the nearest shadow creature. It shrieked, a sound like tearing metal as Lyra compressed the light around it. Nolan watched in awe as she forced the entity into a smaller and smaller space until it seemed to implode, disappearing with a final wail. The other shadow creatures backed away, their crimson eyes dimming with what might have been fear. "Return to our dimension," Lyra commanded, "or share your brother's fate." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then the shadows retreated, slipping through microscopic cracks in the station walls until they vanished completely. The crew exhaled collectively. Commander Ellis approached Lyra cautiously. "Thank you," she said, "but I have to ask, how do we know they won't return? Or that others won't come?" Lyra's light dimmed slightly as the donated energy began to wane. "They will return. My kind always hungers." She looked at Nolan with unmistakable affection, "unless we create something new." In the days that followed, Nolan worked feverishly alongside Lyra. His status on the station transformed from outcast to savior, though many still regarded him warily. The connection he shared with Lyra was too alien for most to understand. "Your plants," Lyra explained as they studied the luminescent specimens, "exist partially in both dimensions. They're natural bridges." She placed her hand on the largest fern and it seemed to pulse in response. "With the right cultivation, we could create a permanent, stable conduit." A sanctuary, Nolan realized. A place between dimensions where your kind could feed ethically, and our kind could experience the connection without harm. Commander Ellis provisionally approved their project, though more out of necessity than enthusiasm. "I can't have my station attacked again," she admitted. "If this works, the Galactic Science Council will need to establish protocols for interdimensional relations." As the project progressed, Nolan and Lyra's relationship deepened further. During quiet moments alone, they imagined their future sanctuary, a place where beings from both realms could exist in harmony. "My people have never known willing symbiosis on this scale," Lyra confessed one night as they lay together. Her fingers traced patterns on Nolan's chest that left trails of gentle light. "We've been predators or parasites, never partners." "That's the beauty of evolution," Nolan replied, capturing her hand in his. "It favors mutualism in the long run." 3 months later, they stood before a shimmering portal sustained by a carefully cultivated garden of interdimensional plants. The energy flow had been stabilized, creating what Nolan called a dimensional ecosystem. Commander Ellis had arranged for scientific delegations from Earth to study the phenomenon. Many were eager to experience the emotional amplification that communion with Lyra's kind could provide under controlled conditions. "This could revolutionize psychology, spirituality, even physics," one scientist gushed. But for Nolan and Lyra, it was something more personal. As they stood at the threshold between worlds, hands intertwined, they represented something unprecedented, a bridge between fundamentally different forms of existence. "Are you ready?" Lyra asked, her silver eyes reflecting both dimensions simultaneously. Nolan smiled. "I've never been more ready for anything." Together, they stepped into the luminous gateway, not fully in either world, but in a space they had created between them. Behind them, both humans and a few curious shadow beings watched with wonder as the impossible became reality. In that moment, Nolan Reed, once ridiculed for his unconventional theories, had not only proven them correct, but had also discovered something far more valuable: connection across the cosmos, and love that transcended the very fabric of existence. The sanctuary glowed with purple-tinged light as they disappeared into their shared future, two beings from different dimensions who had found home in each other.